back to Lex Reads. So in today's video, we are going to talk about nonfiction books. Now, you guys know I am a literary fiction girl. Everything that's fiction, I like, okay? And nonfiction is, I tend to not gravitate towards it. And you would think I would because I'm a very nosy person. I'm just being honest with y'all. And I want to know people's business, but I don't know, for some reason, nonfiction just does not do nothing for me. I did tell myself that I wanted that to kind of change a little bit. And so what I did last year, I just took some little baby steps. I, read one or two, and that kind of led me to go, into more. I broke it up into two categories. The first category is the ones that I have read. And then the second category are the ones that I do want to read. So let's get into the ones I have read because, girl, it's not a lot, okay? My absolutely favorite nonfiction book of like all times is Growing Up X by Ilyasah Shabazz. I just love this book. I remember reading this for the first time when I was in college on my own. But I watched an interview, I remember, with her, and it just sounds so interesting. And when I tell you it is, oh my goodness, Ilyasah, first of all, she's gorgeous. And then on top of that, she is just brilliant. And she talks about growing up with obviously her sisters and her mom, and the fact that she was literally like 2 or 3 years old when her dad died. She said that Dr. Betty Shabazz always made daddy alive. She just explores that, and she explores just her childhood and just everything. It is so good. I need to revisit this because you know what, since I am a serious reader now, I want to highlight and tab and everything. So you already know I'm gonna have to get a separate copy, okay? Because this is a library copy that I got from Amazon years ago. Okay, next one I actually read recently, and that was From Scratch by Timby Locke. After the series came out on Netflix, and what I did is, I remember I watched like 1 or 2 episodes, and I was like, you know what? Wait, I want to read the book first, and I'm so glad I did that. Girl, this was so good. I cried at the scenes when she talks about Sato's transition. And this, backstory is about a woman named Timby Locke. Timby is studying abroad. She's an art history major, and she's studying in Italy. And she literally bumps into a man named Sato. And she was only supposed to be in Italy for a semester, but she falls in love with Sato. And it's a true love story. They end up getting married and everything. But then Sato gets diagnosed with cancer. And he has cancer for 10 years, and she is a caregiver to him, and also he was a chef. And Timby is also an actress, okay? And I remember when this book came out, I remember her face, and I was like, that girl looks very familiar. And I said, wait, she was on an episode of the Wayans Brothers. If you guys are true Wayans Brother fans, she was on the episode when she thought that Pops is her father. Girl, I used to love that episode. But I'm like, oh my goodness, I grew up on Timby Locke. And then I read this, and after I read it, I literally was watching interviews of hers and then watching all of like her catalog, because she does a lot of like TV appearances. She's been on Wayans Brothers, obviously, Martin, who else, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Eve, Bernie Mac. I mean, she's been on so many things, but this was such a good story. And like I said, I cried when she talked about Sato's transition. Oh my goodness, it was so good. Next is Black, White, and Jewish by Rebecca Walker. Now, Rebecca Walker, this is Alice Walker's daughter. And this was so good, okay? Because she talks about growing up biracial. Her mother, Alice Walker, and Alice lived in, was it Mississippi or Atlanta? Somewhere in the South. And yeah, Mississippi. And she obviously married a Jewish man, and she was like the first in Mississippi to do that, and that was still tabooed. And girl, yeah, so she talks about, her parents. She talks about, like I said, growing up biracial, and at one point she goes to live with her father, and a lot goes on with Rebecca. Rebecca gets pregnant and has an abortion. She struggles with her sexuality. She talks about not talking to her mother for years, because I think at this time Rebecca and her mother were not talking. Now they've like reconciled and they've talked, and she has a son and everything like that. But for a long time they weren't talking. But she really does dive deep in, her life, and you just see, because you want to know, like, how was it growing up with, a mother like Alice Walker, and she tells you how it was and her experiences. So this was real good. And then the last book that I read was Three Mothers by Anna Malika Tubbs. This was phenomenal. First of all, this is talking about James Baldwin's mother, Martin Luther King's mother, and Malcolm X's mother. Now, I didn't know anything about James Baldwin's mom. And I knew a handful of Malcolm X's mother and Martin Luther King's mother. And, oh, Lord Jesus. I would say the saddest one is the way that Martin Luther King's mother dies. Alberta, is that her name? Alberta King. She actually was murdered at the church. And with Louise Little, her life was really bad. She basically was in an asylum for years and really didn't need to be there. They put her, basically in a mental institution, and she wasn't mental. And she stayed there for years. One thing I did not know, I didn't know that she was alive when Malcolm was assassinated. I had just assumed that she had died, but she didn't. And then lastly, Bardis, I believe, she had a little hard life too, because her husband was abusive. And where James gets his love of writing and reading is from his mother. And also what I love, what the author does, is she taps into Black motherhood and the difference. And also she talks about it was one story that I will never forget. It was a woman in the South, already had a baby, and then she's pregnant with her second baby. And there was a what was it, a white man had gotten killed, and they said that it was like her husband, and it wasn't. They were literally just pointing fingers at all Black men in the town. And that girl protested, and she was about 19 years old. The girl protested. It was like, no, that's not my husband. They murdered that woman, and the way they did it was horrible. They hanged her upside down, and they cut open her stomach. Oh, Lord. I mean, she had a lot of stories like that. And like I said, she just talked about motherhood in general. This actually was the first book that kind of sparked me into wanting to get more into nonfiction after reading this, because I just was flabbergasted. So because of this book, that's when I, like I said, start diving deep into buying more nonfiction books. And next, we're going to talk about books that I have not read that I want to read. Okay, first is this Shirley Chisholm, The Good Fight. This actually came out last year. This is the first edition, paperback edition. And this, obviously we know Shirley Chisholm, she was the first Black woman elected to Congress, was written in 1972. And she basically just talks about, her life growing up, talks about her life in the, the political realm and things like that. So I don't know a lot about Shirley Chisholm, so I really wanted to get into this. Next, Lord, this man. King of the Cats. This is the life and times of Adam Clayton Powell Jr. He was a mess, y'all. Girl. He was kind of corrupt, okay? Now, I became aware of him after I saw a TV movie, which I will put it on the screen, because he actually was married to, what's the entertainer? Hazel Scott, the one, she's like a prodigy when it comes to piano, girl. But I did not know that. And then, what did he do? Oh, girl. Okay, wait. He was elected as the first Black congressman from Harlem. But he kind of did some corrupt things with some money and stuff like that. And also, he does not look Black, but he is black. But yeah, he was kind of corrupt a little bit, but I'm like, well, I mean, he's a politician, I mean, no shade, but I wanted to learn more about him after I saw that movie, because I'm like, Lord, his life. So when I saw this at a store called Second and Charles for $6, I'm like, oh, I have to snag it, because again, I want to learn more about him. Okay, next is Civil Rights Queen Constance Baker Motley. Now, she's really unsung. No one really talks about her. She was what? The first black woman elected to the New York State Senate. So, a pioneer, okay? And not a lot of people know about her. So, I really wanted to get into this. Next, which I am currently dabbling into this, are Kind of People by Lawrence Otis Graham. I wanted to read this after reading The House of Eve, and Sadiqa Johnson, she talks about some of her research. She really, this is like a heavy, this is the book that she really did focus on, because it's talking about the Black elite. As you guys know, in my Becoming a Black book series, I talked about the Black elite. I will link it down below. A lot of blacks, Black Americans, that they had so much wealth, okay? And they also separated themselves by wealth, but they also separate themselves by color, and this taps into this, okay? Next is Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington. Now, I've only just read a couple of passages of this, and I just know bits and pieces of the book, and obviously I know bits and pieces of Booker T. Washington. So I'm like, you know what? I have to get into this, because this is a classic, you know what I mean? If you really want to dive into Black, you know, classic literature, this is going to be on the list. And I'm like, I have to read this, y'all. I have to read this. Next is The Nation Must Awake, My Witness to the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921. Now, again, after looking and dabbling into the Black elite, I wanted to get this because there were a lot of Blacks that lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma during that time, and the whole town was basically abolished by white mobs, because clearly they didn't want Blacks to, you know, have everything that they had in that town. And you have a lady named Mary Parrish. She actually witnessed the whole town basically, you know, being brought down. So when I saw the cover, that just intrigued me even more, because it's just so pretty. This is a book that just, it like, you want it to be displayed. And y'all know how much I love watercolor art. So next is The Black Cabinet, The Untold Story of African American Politics During the Age of Roosevelt. I wanted to get this because you have Mary Cloud Bethune, and I know a little bit about Mary Cloud Bethune, and during Black History Month, I had dedicated a video, a little short video, I'll also link it down below, about her and about her life, and I'm like, you know what? I have to read it. He had a whole Black cabinet in his office, okay? So, and then lastly is Means of Monticello. Now, again, I know about the Hemings because of the TV movie, Sally Hemings, An American Story, I believe. Y'all know how much, y'all know I live for movies, okay? I knew about like Black individuals and, you know, events and all that. I was buying movies and miniseries, okay? Now, since I am a reader, clearly I'm getting into the books. See, this is talking about Thomas Jefferson and his involvement in life with the Hemings, okay? And we all know that he had fathered how many children with Sally Hemings? Clearly he had kids with Sally, okay? And I would say, watch that movie, you guys. I'll put down the trailer because I don't think they have the whole movie on YouTube, but you can get it cheap on like Amazon or whatever. Watch that movie, y'all, because it gives you the ins and outs of their relationship, girl. But by watching that movie, I said I wanted to get this book because I want to know, you know, even more about it, because clearly the movie's not going to explore everything, you know, that the book can. They had 7 children over the course of their 38 years together. Oh, Lord. Not only do we meet Elizabeth Hemings, that's Sally Hemings' mother of 12 children, 6 by John Wells, a poor English immigrant who rose to great wealth in the Virginia colony, but we follow the Hemings family as they become the property of Jefferson through his marriage to Martha Wells. Yes, because Martha, Thomas Jefferson's wife, was what? Oh, she was the half sister of Sally or something like that. Girl, watch the movie, okay? And then once I get into this, I will bring this back. I need to watch the movie again so I can really get the details in it. Because I don't want to tell y'all the wrong information. But so just that alone, I have to read this, y'all. Have to read it. So yeah, guys, that's it when it comes to nonfiction books. Some that I have read, some that I want to read. As you guys see, I have a lot more that I want to read. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for you, and I'll be back with more Black books. Bye.